Hey y'all fam, and welcome to the very first episode of Who's the Baby? A podcast where me and my emotional support mug talk about everything inner child. So let's get warm and ooey gooey together and process and unpack all this shit from childhood that you didn't know you had. One of the joys of being an adult, especially when you become a parent. Certainly something that no one told me about when I became a parent, but more about that later. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me. I'm Ileana. I am a certified family dynamics coach. I help families find more togetherness, confidence in parenting, and parenting with intention. I help parents live through their example for their children. In turn, their children have a positive foundation so that they can hold true to whatever that they want for their life's journey. I work with parents and school-age children to feel deeper connections, strengthen trust, and to feel more equipped to support one another and thrive and make sure that the entire family's voices are heard. Sisu, I created with one goal in mind: helping young people hold true to their conviction, feeling confident in their beliefs to be authentically them. In turn, helping parents and families create a safe place for their children to flourish as genuinely as they can. Breaking generational bad habits, strengthening bonds, building connections within families. If you're looking to level up your togetherness, I'm here for you. If you're in my local area, I will even come to your home. I have created a 10-week program. I work with not only parents, I also work with the entire family. What I have done is created a 2-part coaching method that is parents separately and then incorporating the whole family in their own sessions as well. So if you are interested in my coaching services, please visit sisucoaching.org. That's SISUCOACHING.org. All right, enough about me. What to expect from this podcast? Like I said, becoming a parent brought up a lot of things for me that I didn't have any awareness of. Some triggers, some feelings. I was reacting to certain things that my child was doing. I really have to unpack some of that myself, don't I? Yeah, I was a parent who was really struggling to be present. I was a parent who was going through a lot, but also dealing with this chronic stress that we put on ourselves as parents and as adults these days. I was very distracted, right, with my device. I was one of those parents that had my phone instead of sitting down and playing with my child. And especially the values that I had for myself, that's not who I said I was. And I think that was the biggest turning point for me, was to have the awakening to say, if one of my values is authenticity and being present and being available, I'm not truly living that best example for my daughter. And she definitely deserves way better of me. How can I better represent who I say I am and take the time to sit and be with her and show her, right? Because I am the example of who she's going to hopefully become, right? Hopefully I'm doing a good job. So how do I work those into her life? How do I best represent myself? How do I explain these things to her? And the best explanation is by doing, right? Action. So doing these things myself and explaining them to her in a way that she can understand. And that's basically a lot of it. But why do we do this as a society? Why do we distract ourselves? Why do we put ourselves out of being connected when we are a social being, a social creature? It's just one of those things that technology and devices, electronics has really sort of helped us become a bit more isolated. So a lot of it is just about breaking habits and digging deep into yourself and determining what's important to me, who do I want to be, and how do I want to show up, not only for myself, but for my family, for my relationships. And this goes to any adult relationship. It doesn't have to be romantic. It doesn't have to be your family. It can be your coworkers or your friends or whomever, is in your life. So that's my shtick. If any of this resonates with you, like I said, go over and visit sisucoaching.org, and I would love to work with you and your family. A little bit more about my backstory. I grew up in a family with lots of people. So aunts, uncles, cousins. I think I have 26 first cousins. I had bunk beds in my room my entire life. I don't have a sister, but there was always somebody in that bed. It was a cousin, a friend, a relative, somebody who was staying for X amount of time. Our family basically had an open door policy, and it was come in, we'll feed you, we'll love you, we'll care for you like one of our own. And I really loved growing up in that environment. Really felt like I created a strong belief system, core beliefs for myself. I knew where the line was. I had very strong morals, all of that. So I was a very, secure person in the early years of my life. And then you grow up, and somewhere along the lines, those lines become a little bit blurred, and you get a few more shades of gray in there, and things get a little messy. Situations arise, new environments, new things that you had no experience, prior till, sort of, I don't want to say get in the way, that's not really the word, but just come across your path. And I struggled a little bit in terms of particularly being in, relationships and becoming a parent. I really kind of struggled with my identity, and becoming a mom really threw me a little bit. Not to negatively talk about being a parent or becoming a parent if you do, want to become a parent, not at all, but just my personal experience really brought up a few things in me that no one had discussed before, no one talked to me about in terms of old wounds, old triggers, traumas, unhealed traumas that, I didn't really even know existed until I became a parent and things started happening. And or situations that I would have to parent my child, and kind of reliving a lot of my own, like, oh, I remember when that happened to me, or oh, I remember that didn't really go the way that I wanted it to as a child, or I didn't really get my needs met in that situation. And then it brings up all these feelings, right? It brings up the emotion. And for a lot of us, we can, as adults, logically process what happened and why it happened, or oh, I see why this happened, I see why my parents did this. However, what they don't tell you is that your emotions don't really care how much logic you throw at it, right? The feelings, the processing, the actual emotions that come along with it is something completely separate than your logical brain. So for a lot of us, growing up in the time we did, I am an older millennial, so we didn't talk about feelings that much. We just kind of put on a happy face, and particularly in my situation, I was dubbed the strong one at a very early, young age in my life. So to me, that meant learning how to be very stoic and learning how to slap on a smile no matter what was actually really brewing inside of me. And that, really took its toll on me personally now, right, as an adult, and seeing this little emotional being that I have. She is a very highly sensitive human, and I absolutely love that about her. But that wasn't something that we learned to move through in my era as being a child. It was just, get through it, suck it up, and we'll be on our way. And that's not to throw any shade on parents or anyone who grew up that way, is parenting that way, or anything like that. It's just, like I said, the logical brain and the emotional brain are two completely sort of separate beings in that regard. So I understand why things happen the way they did. But then, seeing the emotional meltdowns of my child kind of stewed up all of these suppressed emotions and suppressed feelings that I had as a child. And I really had to gain some awareness on, oh, I'm feeling a certain kind of way. Where are these emotions coming from? What exactly am I feeling? Because I think a lot of us struggle to even determine or put a name to the feeling or the emotion itself. And how do I process this and manage this in a way that's safe and comfortable for me, and right, still be a parent and parent my child in an appropriate way in this dynamic, in the current setting, in the current situation. So I think for a lot of parents, that's where we struggle, right? If we were never taught how to deal with our emotions, and then suddenly we have this tiny human that we have to teach them how to deal with their emotions. And you're like, oh yeah, I got this. And then it happens, and then things start happening in your body, and you're like, oh, and now we're stuck because internally in your head, you're thinking, oh crap, I'm having this weird unresolved meltdown myself, and I have this tiny human over here who's having an actual meltdown over here. I need to process and learn to deal with my stuff and learn to deal with her stuff or their stuff real time. So it can be very difficult, it can be very stressful, and a lot of parents, I think, struggle with not wanting to fuck up their child. I know I do. And B, wanting to make sure we're doing the right things and wanting to know that everything is correct, and you don't want to be wrong, or you don't want to screw up your kid, or you don't want to do anything that's too traumatic to them. And it's like, whew, that's a lot. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves, and there's a lot to unpack with all of that. So I will be the first to say that I am still learning this whole process of regulating my emotions, as well as helping my child regulate her emotions. I mean, it is a daily learning experience. I will never claim to be an expert on it, but I think it's a real topic that maybe we don't talk about quite so much, because everyone has this outward appearance that they want to look as, the Joneses. You want to keep up, and you want to look like you're doing a great job, and you got your hair on and your shit together and all that. And I know for me personally, that's not been my parenting experience. My parenting experience was quite a mess. It's a little bit of a messy project I have going on, more like finger painting. But it's beautiful, right? It's just this beautiful mess of chaos, which I love. I mean, it is my very favorite job. And like I said, I love learning, so I never stop learning. And she teaches me just as much, hopefully, if not more, than what I'm teaching her. So this little dance that we do, called parenting, is a lot, and it is a struggle. And if you're not a parent yet, you still deal with all this shit, maybe just not with a tiny emotional ball of human next to you. We all do this, though. So my hope with my coaching is that we can help children identify their values and their authentic self early on, and feel strong and comfortable and supported in that, so that when they reach their upper delightful age of whatever they are, they don't have this crazy awakening, or they don't have this, oh shit, what's happening, or this moment of what the fuck is going on in my brain, where I'm feeling things now that I've never felt, and I'm not dealing with them, like, right? So the hope is to try to alleviate some of this existential crisis that I think a lot of elder millennials might be having at this moment. So that is my hope. That is my vision. That's my my wish, right? And my wish for this podcast. So some things that we will be talking about on this podcast. Hopefully, if everyone is still interested and still listening, thank you. Building, strong bonds, communicating effectively, setting healthy boundaries, navigating conflict, parenting partnership, even that might even relate to co-parenting, right? For those of us who aren't married, stress management, resiliency, compassion, empathy, creating rituals, all sorts of things. I mean, this could even be financial budgeting, balancing work and family, coping with loss and grief, cultural diversity, digital wellness, which I think is huge for us now. Just a ton of topics. And if you guys have your own topics that you want to bring to me. I would love to hear anything that anyone wants to talk about. I would love to get some interviews on here. That would be fantastic. But for now, I guess thank you so much for listening to me rant for however long I've been ranting, me and my mug. And we hope to see you very soon. Thank you so much for listening.